Hey, do you know where Mewtwo shop's at for clothing? Gnoggin.net. That's why he just got this shirt. I mean, look at him. Mewtwo in a shirt. This shirt. A shirt you can only get at Gnoggin.net. Link in the description. It's honestly so soft and comfortable. Humankind cannot gain anything without first giving something in return. To obtain, something of equal value must be lost. That is Alchemy's first law of equivalent exchange. Full Metal Alchemist was one of my all-time favorite anime growing up, and you're probably wondering why I'm even bringing it up in a video that is all about Pokemon. Well, Full Metal Alchemist, if you couldn't tell by the title, is all about alchemy. A proto-chemistry of sorts, an ancient science that took real-world science and sprinkled in some magic and religion to explain the unexplainable aspects of things. And Pokemon, if you didn't know, also has plenty of references to alchemy in it. From the obvious, like Alolan Muck's ability, called Power of Alchemy, and even the name of another Pokemon, Alchemy, which is magically living cream, all the way to the more obscure things, such as Solgaleo being based on the alchemical lion consuming the sun, and really the whole Alolan trio representing the outer parts of the whole Azoth ritual and 7 operations. The lion, sun, anima, bird, moon, spirit, and the black prism of body surrounded by stars. And there is also this symbol that uses the lion that represents Azoth, which conveniently you can also buy a Pokemon version of on our website, Gnoggin.net. It's so soft and comfortable. I'm so happy with the quality that we make these things. But don't think that it's all recent Pokemon. Look at Gen 5's legendary trio. The 3 dragons split from 1, and when looking at the main 2, it's a scaly black dragon with 4 limbs and a fluffy white one with wings. And then the added 3rd one has the power to freeze and control the other 2. Yeah. Whole video about that right here. But in this video, I do indeed have the audacity of saying that maybe these references to alchemy might even go as far back as Generation 1. It's just a theory for sure, but let's look into whether or not the legendary Pokemon Mewtwo could be considered a homunculus. First off, let's go ahead and define what a homunculus is. It's not exactly an everyday word, and also the definitions have changed quite a lot. But according to real-world alchemy, a homunculus was a small, diminutive human being created through artificial means. This makes sense, as the word homunculus itself is Greek for little person. But this doesn't sound like the kind of homunculi that I'm familiar with. So what's the deal? Why are these descriptions so drastically different? Well, you see, way back in the day, before the arrival of cell theory, scientists and alchemists didn't really know a whole lot about the development of babies. So one of the biggest and most popular theories of the time was something called performinationism. Basically, that theory was attempting to explain that there were tiny adult humans that resided inside male sperm, and when introduced to the magical power of a female egg, they just grow and grow, like Ant-Man, to their usual size. Though there is a weird phase where their proportions are a bit wrong because different parts grow at different rates, and we call this weird phase babies and kids. I mean, honestly, isn't it funny that something like this would be considered how a child thinks babies grow nowadays, and yet full-grown adults and professional scientists, philosophers, and alchemists seriously thought this way over 400 years ago? But anyways, while that whole thing was utterly disproven in time, both the term and the concept of artificial human stuck around and continues to this day. For example, the term homunculus is used in physiology as cortical homunculus, which is a term used to describe a neurological map of the different areas of the human brain that control different areas of the human body. It looks something like this. And tangential fun fact, feet and toes being so close to the genitals part of the brain is part of the theory as why the most common fetish in the world is feet. In philosophy now, though, there's the homunculus argument, an informal fallacy where a concept is explained in terms of the concept itself, and without first defining the original concept. Eventually, the conversation starts going in a loop, and never ends. A classic example that is related to a homunculus, or a little person in this case, is that some people back in the day like to simplify how vision works by supposing that there is a little man, the homunculus, in our heads, viewing things through our eyes. But if that's the case, then how does his vision work? Is there a homunculus inside of the homunculus? Is there another homunculus inside of that one? Does the mailman deliver his own mail? Or is there a mailman specifically for delivering mail to other mail deliverers? And if that's true, then who delivers that person's mail? Is there a never-ending line of mailmen? In medical science, the term homunculus is used to describe a type of tumor that's, to be honest, it's a little gross, as this tumor is essentially a sac filled with fluids and can contain things like hair, teeth, and other bony or cartilagey structures. It's like a whole little collection of human parts in a jumbled up tumor mess. Like a failed homunculus experiment. Now, the concept of a homunculus has been applied much more broadly across fictional media as just artificial human. But because of this, it doesn't always follow the description of homunculi that I talked about earlier. This can be seen in many different stories, like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where the titular Frankenstein, the monster, not the doctor, is an artificial human made up of the body parts of other deceased humans. Androids in science fiction could be considered homunculi as well, especially if they use a few biological components. Heck, technically clones can be considered homunculi if you think about it. The villainous homunculi in Full Metal Alchemist certainly do follow the basic artificial human concept with the usual anime flair added in for dramatic effect. And yes, for the 5 people watching this video who are asking, cloned animals would also be considered homunculi, although there is a separate term for animals since homunculus is specific for humans, and that term is, wait for it, Animalculus. I know, it's a dumb name. You just take the homun part and literally slap the word animal in its place. I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of expecting something more exotic? But speaking of cloned animals, it's time we shifted our focus to the big boy itself, Mewtwo. For those of you out there who somehow are not aware of Mewtwo's backstory, allow me to fill you in. Mewtwo was a Pokemon that was cloned from the mythical Pokemon Mew. This whole scientific procedure was heavily implied to have been created by Mr. Fuji, the sweet old man in Lavender Town who cares for orphaned Pokemon. And the entire goal of this project was to genetically design the ultimate Pokemon. It suffered horrible gene splicing experiments and began questioning life itself before eventually destroying the Pokemon Mansion on Cinnabar Island and heading off to Cerulean Cave to the north. Sounds completely awful for sure, but what about Mewtwo would make him be considered a homunculus? Well, what if I told you that Mew's DNA wasn't the only thing used to create Mewtwo? What if human DNA was used as well? It would make sense, right? After all, gene splicing is a form of genetic engineering where specific genes or gene sequences are inserted into the genome of a different organism. If Mewtwo were a simple clone of Mew, it'd look exactly like Mew, wouldn't it? Maybe Mew with some, tribal tattoo markings, like all of the other clones in the movie. But no, instead, Mewtwo looks like this. That's not a Mew at all! Introducing human DNA would certainly help explain the drastic differences between Mew and Mewtwo. Mewtwo's height, weight, elongated fingers, and overall more humanoid shape could all just be the human DNA expressing itself in mixture with the Mew DNA. Plus, this isn't really a foreign concept. In Pokemon Adventures, a popular manga based on the video games, it was revealed that Mewtwo did have human DNA inside of him, Blaine's specifically, and the end result of that was a tumor that allowed the two to sense each other's presence. Sounds awesome, but the downside to that was Mewtwo's cells that somehow found its way into Blaine's arm were threatening his life. Don't worry though, he eventually got better. But that's about the manga though, which is based on the games, but you know, canon stuff. So how about the anime? Well, there's the Japanese Birth of Mewtwo radio drama, as well as an uncut story of Mewtwo's origin short that was added to the Japanese airings and release of the first movie, and was made international with the Mewtwo Returns special feature. In it, we learn that Dr. Fuji's daughter died, and thus he dedicated his life to researching cloning, all in an attempt to bring her back in some form. Of course, all this science is expensive, so he got funding from Giovanni on the condition that Dr. Fuji also creates an ultimate Pokémon, a clone of Mew. Mewtwo. And funnily enough, the clone of Amber, the name of his daughter, was named Amber 2. I'm not joking. Oh yes, my lovely daughter. Amber 2, could you fetch me a pail? Why was a pail the first thing I thought of? But anyway, so a human clone and a Pokémon clone with slightly more humanoid traits than what it's supposed to be a clone of are being worked on at the same time, and so close to each other's test tubes that Mewtwo actually communicated with Amber 2. And that means they absolutely are working with human DNA as well, so splicing some of that in there for sure is a possibility, especially if the point is to make an ultimate Pokémon. Maybe they think the only thing a Pokémon is missing is some human attributes, because humans are so dang smart and great. Ultimately though, Amber 2 dies, but Mewtwo lives because it is a powerful Pokémon. But this makes it sad, and then mad, and so it kills a bunch of people while destroying the entire lab. So, that's the manga and the anime, but there's always those stickler fans that scream about those things having absolutely nothing to do with the games, and they can't even be considered referential. So, alright, what about the games? That's unfortunately not clear. If anything, I'd say it's possible that Mr. Fuji, or Dr. Fuji as he would have been known back then, used his own DNA to create Mewtwo. And yes, I am aware that the text from the Pokemon Mansion journals implies that he wasn't the one to create Mewtwo, but in the original Japanese text, he is. Also, this would kind of be in line with tales of scientists and alchemists in most media go. You've got scientists/alchemists who are trying to use science/alchemy to cross into God's territory and create life. Only for something to go horribly wrong and said scientist/alchemist either dies or tries to atone for their transgressions, just like how Mr. Fuji created Mewtwo and then tried to atone for his mistake by caring for orphaned Pokemon, and always going on about treating Pokemon with love and kindness. So, let's get back to our original question. Can Mewtwo be considered a homunculus? Well, given everything we've talked about, I'd say yes, technically. The possibility of Mewtwo having human DNA as part of its genetic makeup, thanks to the splicing experiments currently, would make it human enough to be considered a homunculus, and not an animalculus. And also, again, consider that cortical homunculus from physiology, specifically the models that resized different parts of the body based on how much of the brain is used for that part. So it's got, like, big hands. Could that play a part in Mewtwo's oddly bulbous fingers and end of tail? And 2 necks? What's with the 2 necks? Well, video all about that here. So, what do you think? Do you think Mewtwo is a homunculus? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And of course, never stop using your noggin.